Well, now that we have reminisced enough on the bad days of Tennessee football, I think we should maybe have a little bit of fun to end the show here. So I've been doing some crowdsourcing here, some social listening, and I asked my social media followers earlier today, or anybody who wanted to reply to my tweet, what's your top 5 Tennessee football games that you've seen in person are? And I think we had somewhere around 30 submissions, over 50 games mentioned as well, which is pretty remarkable. Um, and this is spanning a 50-year period too. This is not just recency bias, which is the cool thing about it. But before I get into any of the numbers that I'd pulled, let's give our top 5 games. Why don't we, Jordan?
Okay. Do you want to go first? Do you want me? Because I'll tell you straight up, Tucker, fair warning to everyone, has been to a multitude more games than me.
Here's the thing. All right, for those of you watching, I'm 23 years old. I've been to 75 Tennessee football games. I've been to just enough good games to get a top 5 where they are not losses.
I can't say the
So,
same.
and I have it is a winning record, but keep in mind a lot of those are like Austin Peay's and UTEPs that I've acquired here in recent years.
Yeah, so mine, unfortunately, is going to contain some losses, but I find them to be some memorable ones at that, or at least for me. But I've only been to 10 Tennessee football games, so there's a little bit of slim pickings here for me. But if you want me to go right ahead, I can get onto my list.
Oh boy.
I'm more excited to hear yours, but you might be shocked to hear some of the games I got on here.
Yeah.
So rounding out at number 5, I got Tennessee at Alabama in 2023. Now, I know Tennessee lost this game. I know that it was Nick Saban's last year with Alabama, so I know it hurt not getting that win. But it was so awesome being able to go to Tuscaloosa. This was outside of Vanderbilt, which I've seen games at Vanderbilt, of course, being in the Nashville area. This was the first SEC stadium that I've been to and watched a game, besides Tennessee, of course. And it was so exciting going there, like the drive there and everything. And some interesting things went down. And I don't think I've ever told you this before, Tucker, but I had the most interesting trash talk ever happen to me. It was the most Alabama trash talk that I've ever heard in my entire life. So I was trying to find out how to get in the stadium because I was having ticket problems with the connection there. And while I was talking to an Alabama staffer, a group of Alabama fans noticed my Tennessee Peyton Manning jersey, and they came over to me and they were like, Peyton Manning sucks. And that we ruled him and all this stuff. And I was like, I'm not the young kid for you to
Wait a minute.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
He won all but one game.
Oh, I know. And I was like, wasn't he undefeated against y'all as a starter? And he was like, oh, no, I don't think that's true. I was like, yeah, that's the case. And I was like,
so 1995.
Yeah. And I was like, so when did y'all beat Peyton Manning? He was like, oh, his freshman year. So I looked at him and responded to him. I was like, oh, so you beat Peyton Manning when he was sharing reps with a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer as a starting quarterback.
That's accurate.
You beat us with a baseball player as the quarterback, and you're trying to say that Peyton Manning sucks? You could have brought up Butch Jones. You could have brought up Derek Dooley. You could have said anything but mentioning Peyton Manning, who was Alabama's father in the 90s.
Yes.
Makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
So that was a funny way to start the game. And then, of course, we get into the stadium. We're sitting in the Alabama section. The only Tennessee fans near me were like to the back left of me. And, Tennessee started off really good. We're up 20-7 at one point. And, we were in the stadium. Like, I was with my girlfriend. We were celebrating. We were clapping. I got videos of us celebrating. Like, Alabama fans just looked distraught in the back. And, man, did things quickly change.
Yeah. I just remember once Milroe uncorked that pass to Isaiah Bond, because I was there too, sitting in the media area. It was just like, oh, this is a different game now.
Yeah, and I had to eat crow right then and there because I was happy celebrating, and then I became one of those Alabama fans that had my head down later
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
But what made the game so special was like just being in part of that SEC environment. It was so cool getting to go to Bryant-Denny Stadium and everything. And I'm a little bit of a sightseer, like slash history nerd too. So like seeing all of the statues and stuff there, like the elephant that they have outside of the stadium, like seeing all the frat house and sorority houses, like it's a pretty cool spot out there. Wish that Tennessee would have got the win, of course, but it was interesting, like having interactions with Alabama fans and stuff. And for the most part, they were good. It was just I thought it was hilarious that like before I even get in the stadium, they're already trash talking me, and they just brought up the worst possible thing that they could.
Yeah. I got lost in the chasms of Bryant-Denny Stadium trying to find the media workroom afterwards. But that's a story for another day. Go on with your top 5.
Okay. So number four here. Unfortunately, it's another loss, but this one is probably one of the more memorable losses Tennessee's had as of late. And of course, I'm talking about Tennessee versus Ole Miss in 2021. I had a lot of emotions heading into this game. I didn't even know I was going to go to begin because I was just staying in Gatlinburg for a family vacation and bought tickets last second. But this game had a very special place in my heart because, as I mentioned earlier, the first time I started watching Tennessee football was in 2009. And in 2009, Tennessee's head coach was Lane Kiffin. So my first taste with the Tennessee Volunteers was Lane Kiffin leaving in the middle of the night, going to USC to pursue his childhood dreams of becoming a coach there and whatnot, and just feeling absolutely distraught and gutted by what he did to my little 10-year-old self is the way that I viewed it. So there was a lot of feelings going into this game. And I felt like it was fate. I felt like fate was finally going to get Tennessee over this hump. Finally, we can prove to Lane Kiffin what he was missing the entire time. Because I feel like if we had Lane Kiffin on the show here right now and we were talking about his life and stuff, I feel like he wouldn't have made the same decision he did to go to USC. I think that he has a little bit of sympathy towards Tennessee. And although he's joked, he seemed to have some good times there as well. Well, going into that game, I was hoping so bad. I was telling my brother all about it, who was becoming a football fan at this time. I was telling him about how important this game was. And, it was going good for a minute. Matt Corral was kind of running crazy and was frustrating me with that. But, Tennessee had a chance to win the game. And then, of course, oh man, it just hurts me so much to see with my own eyes how many of those players on Ole Miss's team. I think they tallied like something like 40 injury timeouts, 40 plus or something like that. It was outrageous the amount of injuries that were going on during the game, and of course, there comes that point where all the fans are throwing the mustard bottles and stuff, and I don't initially like see it, but then I start looking, and then I see a whole bunch of stuff being thrown in the air. Meanwhile, all this is going on. My phone's blowing up. My dad's texting me. My friends are texting me. They're like, "You're not doing this, right? You're not participating in this. This is sick. I can't believe what is sports come to." And all
it's
of this.
Always a Tennessee outrage, man.
It's always a Tennessee outrage. And mind you, during this time, I think a week before, a school like threw trash on the field, and I think South Carolina, maybe Duke ended up doing it, like following that. But no media attention to that. Of
Ole Miss
course,
did it at a Tennessee basketball game like
oh
2
yeah,
years earlier.
I forgot about that too.
The
Yeah,
hypocrisy there, the double standard.
the
It's
double
unreal.
standard.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I was actually on field for that game, working for another media outlet at the time. Won't name them just out of respect, but I offered, because this was a a group that was doing a lot of videography content. So I offered to bring back their tripods and camera lenses back to the studio in a four-wheeler because I was running cards that night to and from a studio. And they all said, sure, you can do that. And this is with like 5 minutes to go in the game. So I get all their stuff. I drive over to the studio. And then I see the game's in a delay because there is trash raining down onto the field. And so I missed that entire thing. And it's probably for the best that I did because I did not get pelted by any Bud Light cans,
Yeah.
which is good for me.
Yeah. Thankfully, no hospital bills.
I
at
have
the
been
end of that
pelted by
night.
footballs on a football field before, though. That's another story for another day. But what's number 3?
Well, before I get to number 3, I just wanted to wrap that up and say what I was saying about the text messages and everything with the Tennessee Ole Miss game, because
Yeah.
I feel like if you aren't a Tennessee fan or didn't grow up during the struggles of Tennessee, you wouldn't understand. Like, as an outsider looking in, it looks really bad what Tennessee's doing. And I'm not trying to justify it. I didn't participate in it. I didn't throw any trash on the field. Yes, I was upset. I had more respect for the game than to do something like that. However, it was more than just the faking of injuries. That's what the media might have portrayed it as. That may have been the headline story, the faking the injuries, but it wasn't just that. And it wasn't just Lane Kiffin. He played a factor into it, yes, because he left Tennessee after 1 year and looked at Tennessee as a stepping stone. Yes, that played a factor, but it wasn't just Lane Kiffin. It was Derek Dooley. It was Butch Jones. It was Jeremy Pruitt. It was 15 years of struggling in mediocrity that led to this point. So when Tennessee finally got the redemption to right their wrongs against Lane Kiffin, and it ended up not going Tennessee's way, that really stung. And to have the media tear Tennessee apart over throwing mustard bottles, once again, I get it, but it was more than just the injury thing. So it really rubbed me the wrong way, the way that it was portrayed out there, because I feel like the only way that you would be able to understand the way Tennessee fans are feeling is if you struggled those 15 years and watched all the messes that took place. But
all right. So what's 3?
So yeah, I got a little carried away there. But number 3, a game that people probably don't bat an eye at much, Tennessee versus Bowling Green in 2015. Ooh. Now, what was so special about this game, I mean, Tennessee did give up 30 points to Bowling Green, which is never pretty. And they let, I think his name's Garrett
Dieter. Yes.
Garrett Dieter. Got to see him before he played at Alabama, and he torched Tennessee's secondary. But I became a fan of him after that. Wanted to learn more about him. So it was interesting finding out about him. But the coolest thing about the game wasn't even the game itself. It's what I ended up lucking into. So one of our mutual friends, me and Tucker's mutual friends,
yep,
we were in high school during this time, and the game just ended. We were like, okay, cool, that was fun. And it was at Nissan Stadium, so in Nashville, not at Neyland. And we were excited. We were leaving the game, and then we see a table set up, white foldable table with food and like drinks on there, and then gates blocking it off. And I looked to my friend. I was like, we should stay here. And he was like, oh, really? Why? And I was like, I think that the players are going to come by. I think if we stay here, there's a good chance we see the team. And of course we did. And I was fortunate enough to not only meet Josh Dobbs, I met Derek Barnett, I met Cam Sutton, Jawan Jennings. I met Marquez Callaway. And one of the coolest things, me and my buddy, we were fortunate enough to talk to Alvin Kamara, which was really cool. And I had a hard time understanding him during the time because it was loud, lots of conversations and whatnot. And he was excited after the game. But we talked to Alvin Kamara for like a couple minutes. And it was mainly my friend doing the carrying of the conversation because I was a little too nervous to talk to him because I was in high school during the time. But Alvin Kamara took the time to talk to us, and he was very happy. And from what I remember, he had a really good game that game. So it was not shocking to see him happy.
Yeah.
And then in addition, I forget which offensive lineman it was, but my mutual friend or my friend, he knew more about this offensive lineman than me, so much so that I think his sister or sister's friend used to date him or something like that. And he actually had the courage to bring that up to him to his face and talk to him about it. And they talked
That's kind of wild.
yeah, and they were just talking about this girl for a
No.
second after Tennessee just had a game.
Yeah. No, I was at that game, and it's not probably not even in my top 15, but I will always remember it because of how bizarre the weather was. It started off rainy, then somebody flipped on the lights in, what was it, the second quarter? It just got hot out of nowhere. And then sometime in the third quarter, there was a lightning delay. I don't think it actually rained. Some dude ran out on the field during the delay. And then we got back from the delay, and suddenly it's just nice outside. It's this nice, calm September night. And it's like, okay, we can deal with this now. It was seriously one of the weirdest weather games I've ever been to.
No, it really was weird. I got pictures from the game still, and like I was like wearing like a short sleeve shirt and all that stuff, and I got sunburnt during the game. Like you could tell in the pictures I got like burnt up, and then they had the delay and all of that. And something else, I wasn't fortunate enough to meet him, but Al Wilson was there, and I remember that hurting me a little bit because I couldn't see Al Wilson in time to go meet him because he was like at halftime or something. I'm like, we got to go find Al Wilson. We never found Al Wilson. But
right,
my second game,
okay,
I'll try to speed it up here.
All right.
The second one, I don't have nearly as much to talk about, but it was Tennessee versus Florida last year. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I spent about 40 minutes of this game pissed off, staring, just having the most angry thoughts in the world because I was like, of course. I was like, there's death taxes and Tennessee losing to a Florida team that's inferior to them. And that was going through my head the whole time. I already wrote Tennessee off as losing like by like the end of like the first quarter. And of course, like I tried to get happier as the game went on, and ultimately, went overtime. First overtime game I've ever witnessed in person, beating Florida. So it hurt during the game, but the reason why I had like most of the game hurt, but the reason I have it at number 2 is because Florida's always been the team that I've hated the most. Always a team that's left a sour taste in my mouth. And like I've mentioned, I've seen Tennessee lose to Florida teams they should not have. So I had to rationalize after a game that I found disappointing at first. I rationalized it by saying, wow, look at you being selfish and complaining about a win over Florida. Whereas when you were like 12 years old, you would have cried of happiness seeing this moment with your own eyes. So I had to rationalize that and be like, you know what? Young Jordan would be very happy right now. So I need to like take the game with a grain of salt. So that's what led to number 2. And then number 1, I'll briefly go over it. It was Tennessee versus Nebraska in the bowl game in 2016. And the reason why I have that one number 1 is because nothing really so much about the game itself, but it was so cool getting to see Derek Barnett break the sack record. And I got a funny short story real quick because everyone had a feeling he was going to break it going into the game. And this game took place a little bit after Christmas. I forget when it was, but for Christmas, I asked for a Reggie White Tennessee jersey. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to wear it to the game. He's probably going to break Reggie White's sack record. And I had some pretty good seats, maybe about like 10 rows back or something like that in the corner of the end zone. I was jumping up and down every time he'd beat the offensive tackle off the ball. I would be jumping in the air before he even got the sack. And I know there was a couple close calls. Like he could have ended up with like three or so sacks that game. But when it finally happened, I jumped up. I took my jersey off. I was so excited. I took the Reggie White jersey off and I started waving it in the air. And then a guy with an ESPN camera pointed at me and told me to keep doing what I was doing. And then I did that. And if you go look back on the ESPN footage, you'll see Derek Barnett. Yes, you'll see Derek Barnett break the sack record. They talk about it for like about 30 seconds. Then it'll flash to me shaking the jersey and it says White 92. And then after that, like my family, all my friends, they were watching the game. They were like, were you just on TV and all that? And it was just such a great memory for me because not only did I get to see part of Tennessee's football history, and especially breaking someone like Reggie White's record is a huge ordeal. Being able to see that with my own eyes and be a part of like the stuff that came after, because Vol Football on Instagram ended up when he went to the NFL to the Eagles, they ended up clipping a little highlight thing from on there, and they included me in the video too. So there's still pieces of me flying around in Tennessee media thanks to that game. So that's what made that number one for me.